Welcome back. We now come to my favourite approach. This approach believes that the differences between the genealogies cannot be resolved. As can be seen thus far in our journey, all harmonization attempts ultimately fail. Even those which seem promising are based on assumptions and guesswork. Therefore, a better approach is to simply embrace the differences and try to understand why the authors would have made them. In other words, is there a theological motive behind the differences in Matthew and Luke? This video will be specifically establishing a theological motive as to why Matthew has called Joseph's father Jacob in contrast to Luke's Heli. Is it possible that there is a theological desire in the mind of Matthew to have Joseph's father be named Jacob? I think there is. For you see, the phrase Jacob, the father of Joseph, should be very reminiscent to those well acquainted with the Hebrew scriptures. For Jacob, the patriarch, also known as Israel, had a son named Joseph, perhaps most well known for his coloured coat. And it is my contention that Matthew desires to create a parallel between these two Josephs. Let's begin. In the book of Genesis, we are told that Joseph, on many occasions, has prophetic dreams. Likewise, in the Gospel of Matthew, we are told that Joseph also has several prophetic dreams, instructing him to marry Mary and then later on to flee to Egypt. And this migration to Egypt is yet another match between these two Josephs, for they both at a time resided in Egypt. Also remember that it is only in Matthew's Gospel that we are told about this journey to Egypt. But the parallels in Matthew continue and now move beyond merely establishing a relationship between our two Josephs. It seems Matthew also desires to present the infancy of Christ as a retelling of Israel's origins. For the next major event which befell the Israelites while in Egypt is the order by the Pharaoh to slaughter every Jewish infant. This event bears a striking resemblance to the massacre instituted by Herod the Great of every infant within Bethlehem, and I remind you again that this massacre is only reported within Matthew. The next event of the Israelites is them escaping Egypt by passing through the Red Sea. Likewise, in Matthew, the next event in Christ's life is him passing through the waters of baptism. This connection is strengthened by the fact that immediately after the Israelites passed through the Red Sea, they spent 40 years in the wilderness. In the same way, immediately after Matthew recounts the baptism of Christ, we are told that he spent 40 days and 40 nights being tempted in the wilderness. Lastly, the pinnacle of Israel's origin story is when Moses ascends Mount Sinai to receive the Torah, which once again corresponds to Jesus ascending a mountain to proclaim the Sermon on the Mount. And I once again remind you that only Matthew has Jesus delivering this sermon on a mountain. Luke, in comparison, has it occur on a plain. Furthermore, this Sermon on the Mount serves as the first of 5 large discourses in Matthew, which could be seen as paralleling the first 5 books of the Torah. All these corresponding events are truly remarkable and cannot be viewed as merely a coincidence. Rather, it is clear that Matthew wished to present Christ as a new Israel. And thus many scholars have termed Matthew's infancy account as a recapitulation of Israel's story through Christ. Let's now return to our criteria and take note of the fact that all attempts to historically harmonize Matthew and Luke have failed. And the most likely reason for this is because Matthew is not concerned with history. Let me repeat that. Matthew is not concerned with history. Rather, Matthew is concerned with theology. And more so than anything else, Matthew wants his audience to know that Christ is the very embodiment and fulfillment of Israel's story. So we can confidently give the theological approach a tick, for it has a tremendous amount of explanatory power. And with this video, we conclude our very long study of the genealogy of Christ. I hope you've enjoyed it, and will return for my next series on the differences between the infancy accounts of Christ. I hope to see you then.